Our next game takes us to the Northwest in Seattle, Washington, where the Washington State Cougars play on a neutral siting against the Washington Huskies. This is a 3:30 kickoff on Peacock. That's right, on Peacock. No national TV exposure for this big-time rivalry. I know Brad will have his 2 cents to throw in about that. Only a 5-point spread in this one, Brad. Washington favored this one by 5 at Lumen Field, like I mentioned, where the Seattle Seahawks play. Surprised, but not surprised. This is a neutral siting, big in-state rivalry, and you got to believe both fan bases are ready for this game come Saturday. I'll turn it over to you, Brad. Thoughts on this matchup and who comes out on top in this in-state rivalry?
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Well, first of all, college football, let's do better. I get that we all have streaming services, but come on, college football, we're too good to be streaming the Apple Cup, which I think is it's an awesome name for a rivalry. Washington State, just 2 fun teams. College football, we are too good to be streaming on Peacock. Let's get it together. And this is not a hate on Peacock. I love Peacock. The Office is my favorite show. But come on, why are we streaming? That ran over. Let's get back to break the whole football here, man. The Apple Cup, so much fun. I've been watching this game, for years, ever since I was a little kid, because we're used to it being. I think most of the time on Thanksgiving weekend, it'd even be like the day after Thanksgiving, and just such a fun game. With these 2 teams out on the West Coast, you really don't hear about, how passionate these fans are. But these 2 fan bases, I won't say they hate each other, but hey, they don't get along at times. I am such a fan of Jed Fish. This was such a great hire by Washington to get him. And, Kalen DeBoer did such a good job, but I think Jed Fish, man, Nate, I think Jed Fish is just going to continue to keep the Huskies on top. Now, we all know they're coming into a very, very tough Big Ten, and Washington's got to find their place. They got to find their footing, but Jed Fish is going to get it done. Want to talk about real quick, quarterback Will Rogers, of course. He transferred from Mississippi State, and he's been really, really solid. 5 touchdowns, no picks. He's got weapons all over the field. Their running back Jonah Coleman is off to a good start. I do want to talk about their leading sack guy, Zach Durfee. This guy's got great size at 6'5", 256. Has just really, really played well. 2.5 sacks and 8 tackles so far in 2 games. For Washington State, they're led by quarterback John Mateer, who has had a really good season so far. He's a sophomore, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Nate, simply for me, this comes down to I think Washington is just more explosive on that side of the ball. 5 points. That you know so well. We both know that these rivalries, you just don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to take the Huskies in this one. Once again, I think Will Rogers makes some plays in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and Washington ends up pulling away and taking this one at Lumen Field.
Yeah, Brad, this is a really, really good matchup when you look at these 2 teams going head-to-head. 5-point spread, as I mentioned. Both teams 2-0. And look, Washington State, let's be honest, they got left behind in the Pac-2 now with Oregon State. Oregon State playing Oregon. We don't cover that game this week, but that could be a tough game too for Oregon. When you look at this matchup specifically, I also want to mention about Peacock, just real quick, shame on college football for doing that. But hey, at least it's a 3:30 kickoff, not a 10 p.m. kickoff. So if you do have streaming service, it's going to be you're in luck. It's during prime time. I want to mention quarterback John Mateer for the Washington State Cougars, 467 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also leads the team in rushing, which is not necessarily a good thing. 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. Has a beautiful head of lettuce, an absolute horse mane. If you see the side hair, it is fantastic. Then you want to mention wide receiver Kyle Williams, 5 receptions, 162 yards. He's averaging 32 yards a catch, Brad. That's crazy. 3 touchdowns. First year without Cam Ward. We see what Cam Ward's doing down at Miami. John Mateer had a lot of big shoes to fill, I should say. And then you look at the other side. You mentioned Jed Fish, first-year head coach for the Washington Huskies, and what he was able to do to rebuild that Arizona program. I think a lot of people took that for granted, and I don't think people understand in that market, how hard it is, especially being in the Pac-12, to do what he did with that program. Absolutely fantastic job. And in the end, most guys stayed at Arizona. There were a couple of guys that transferred over with him to Washington. But props to those guys who stayed at Arizona to keep the legacy going and what Jedd Fisch was able to build there. With that being said, keys to victory here. Washington State's going to come out swinging. This is a big game for them. A lot of hype behind it. They feel left out. They feel ticked off. They're going to come out swinging. Can they control the tempo? Can they overcome the jitters? And then secondly, Washington needs to pressure the quarterback. This is a young guy in John Mateer. Washington has to get pressure early to Washington State. If they can do that, they're going to come out on top. And with that being said, I'm taking the Washington Huskies to win this one in a close one. 31-24 is my final score prediction. Let us know down in the comments who you believe is going to win the Apple Cup, this in-state rival between Washington and Washington State.